Peace and the mercy and blessings of God be with you. I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally, with this segment of the TV show, Let the Quran Speak. In this segment, I want to address a question that is perpetual in the minds of Muslims and non-Muslims about the Islamic faith. What are the rights of women in the Islamic faith? What rights have been granted traditionally, according to the Quran and in the life example of the Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace? And how might those rights be adjusted for our contemporary society in the light of the fact that so many new rights and responsibilities have been given to women in our contemporary societies? So let's take it a step at a time. First of all, we have to understand that the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, lived in a time, the Quran was revealed, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, lived in a time that was far remote from our own, some 1400 years ago. The society was very different, social mores and customs were very different, and so many of the rulings in the Quran and much of what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is reported to have said and did actually relate very closely to that time and place. At the same time, Muslims believe that the Quran is a guidance for all humankind for all time to come. And we believe that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final messenger from God, bringing a message that will be applicable to all times and places. However, that does not mean that the Quran will be literally applied to all times and places. Sometimes the meaning will be taken in a literal manner, if that is the most fitting meaning for the circumstance. At other times, we might have to give a non-literal meaning or a figurative meaning, or we might have to adjust for the intention. We'll have to say that the intention behind this passage was such and such, and how do we translate that intention into the actual practice that is relevant to our time and place. So too with the life example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, perhaps even more so, because the Prophet, peace be upon him, as contrasted with the Quran, was not necessarily giving such general prescriptions for all time and places, but rather the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, may have been responding to questions raised to him at the time. There could have been cases brought to him where there is a dispute between a husband and wife, for example, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, has to adjudicate between them. So the ruling that is given and was given at that time was very specific to that time and circumstance, and even to individual cases. So we should not automatically extrapolate from what the Prophet, peace be upon him, said and did, and the rulings he gave for specific cases, to give us rules to live by for all times and circumstances. We should ask, if that's what the Prophet, peace be upon him, ruled at that time, what was the intention behind such a ruling? What was he trying to achieve? And when we understand what he was trying to achieve, then we ask ourselves, well, how can we achieve the same thing in our present circumstance, even if it means not taking the rule literally as it was once delivered in the past? So with this brief introduction, let's look then at some of the issues that get raised in modern times. So people ask, well, you know, it's mentioned in the Quran that you need two witnesses from among women in case you could not find two male witnesses. So you can still work with one male witness plus two female witnesses. So doesn't that mean that two female witnesses are equivalent to one male witness? So what we would say is that this seems to apply at the time when it was first revealed because of the nature of the circumstance. At that time, women generally did not participate in business transactions. So in terms of the loan agreement, which is what the Quranic verse was speaking about, when it comes to the witnessing, instead of having one woman to stand up in court and bear evidence on her own in a male-dominated circumstance where she might be pressured into changing her testimony, she should have her female companion to support her in the testimony that she's giving. So that's why we are being told to have one male witness, but in the place of the other male witness, have two females, one who will actually give the evidence and the other one who will support her as she is giving that evidence. So we would say that in a modern context, where women are pretty business savvy, women could be presidents and prime ministers of major countries of the world, there is no reason for saying that we still must have two women witnesses in the place of one male witness. A singular witness would be sufficient, so long as we're talking about competent individuals. And of course, even when it comes to men, if the man is not a competent individual when it comes to giving evidence, then his maleness does not automatically qualify him as a trustworthy witness. We should see other qualities in that witness. And so we make an adjustment so that the Islamic law continues to be seen by both Muslims and non-Muslims to be fair and balanced and not bent towards the favor of one gender over another. Other issues come up as well. For example, about inheritance. Here too, one has to see the intent of the law as it was first given. When the inheritance law was first given, that was in a society in which generally women did not inherit. In fact, in some cases, the woman became part of the inheritance that was passed on from one person to another. And that's bad. So we don't want to repeat that. So we want to adjust for the circumstance. We want to see, first of all, what was the Quran doing in that circumstance? And we see that the Quran was actually granting the rights of women to inherit. So when we come to a modern time, we have to proceed with the same spirit in mind. So whereas at one time women did not have the right to inherit and the Quran now granted them that right, the Quran was chalking out a new future, a future in which women will be given rights. It so happens that in many societies, the rights of women continued to be advanced, but in some Muslim contexts, it was thought that we have to live with the tradition as it was once established. We cannot make any change to it, and so once that was the rule, it remains the rule for all time. And so Muslim societies did not want to make any adjustments. And what is the result? The result is that other societies continued to advance with the rights of women, and Muslim societies tended to lag behind because they thought we're doing the right thing, we're staying with the tradition. But I would call on Muslims to understand that our tradition is dynamic. It is changeable. It is adjustable to the time and circumstance. What is not adjustable are the main principles of fairness and justice that lay behind the original ruling. So the original ruling was there to ensure fairness and justice to both genders, and especially to women, by granting them a share in the inheritance in the first place. And now we must continue in that spirit of fairness to women in particular, seeing that in modern times, when women are given equal shares with others, we can interpret our tradition in a way that will also give them that right. So there are some ways to adjust within the tradition. One way is by giving a wasiyah, or a bequest that is given to a specific person. There is a tradition that says that there's no bequest in reference to an heir, one who already is a designated heir. But some Muslims have found that this is a way in which they can give a bequest to the daughter or other female relatives, thus in a way ignoring that particular tradition and trying to equalize the shares. There could be other ways as well, and this remains for Muslim scholars to think about, to discuss, and to reach new rulings for. The bottom line is that Muslims should, in good conscience, try the best they can to stick with the tradition, with the Quran, and with the life example of the Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace. At the same time, sticking to the tradition does not always mean sticking with the letter of the law as it was once delivered, but it often means going with the spirit of the regulation in order to make sure that the original intention of fairness and justice can be maintained for everyone involved, and for women in particular. So I'm your brother in faith, Shabir Ally, with this segment for Let the Quran Speak. To watch more segments and to support our show, please go to our website, www.quranspeaks.com. Peace and the mercy and blessings of God be with all of you. May God keep you and all of your loved ones and the entire world safe from the coronavirus and from every other disease and distress and stress and anxiety. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you.